How do you top your love for your cat? With a cascade of decadent savory gravy over a mouth-watering mousse pate. Fancy Feast gems. 2 gourmet pâtés in one convenient pack. Simply peel and plate to reveal a pyramid shape that makes eating delightful and pamper her with an experience as extraordinary as she is. Turn the everyday into the extraordinary with Fancy Feast gems.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
Electricast.
Well, there was a sexual abuse trial. After investigation, they did find him not guilty of any of that.
Almost everybody was charmed by this movie in 1979, and something has really happened. A major cultural shift has occurred.
Welcome to episode 209 of Film Generations, where two guys from the 20th century select a classic movie to show a panel of young film lovers to see if it still plays for today's generation. I'm Mark Netter. I'm a filmmaker. I'm an instructor at the Los Angeles Film School, and I am co-founder and CEO of Electricast Media.
I'm David Tausig. I'm a filmmaker and a senior citizen.
Right, I'm Kelly LaRue. I'm a recent film school graduate from USC, and I am an aspiring film journalist.
Hi, I'm Guy Lewis. I am a recent film school graduate from Los Angeles Film School, and I like movies.
And we have a special guest panelist today.
How you doing? My name is Steven Renteria. I'm a student at the LA Film School, 13-year Army vet, and 5-year former LAPD.
This episode, we examine the 1979 romantic comedy, Manhattan. A critical and box office hit upon its release, it's been somewhat reappraised due to events in the director, co-writer, and leading man Woody Allen's life since then. Coming 2 years after his career high Annie Hall, which won Oscars for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, and for star Diane Keaton, Best Actress, Manhattan, in black and white, features arguably the most lovingly shot images of New York City, thanks to Godfather cinematographer Gordon Willis. The story centers on Allen's Isaac Davis, a 42-year-old TV writer with 2 failed marriages who is dating a 17-year-old high school student, Tracy, played by Mariel Hemingway. His writer-professor best friend, Yale, played by Michael Murphy, is cheating on his own wife with a journalist, Diane Keaton, as Mary. When Mary breaks up with Yale, Yale suggests that Isaac date her instead, leading to a brand new relationship. But will the more age-appropriate couple make it in the sophisticated New York City milieu with its endless cultural choices, romantic choices, and opportunities for boundless narcissism? Let's join our panel on a subway headed straight to the heart of Manhattan to find out. Aside from David and myself, both of whom saw the movie when it first came out, and probably at least once since then, is this the first time the other 3 of you have seen Manhattan?
Yeah. I was definitely nervous to watch, just because I've only really ever seen like 2 Woody Allen films, Midnight in Paris and then Annie Hall. I'm not a giant fan of his, and I think also has to do with a lot of the knowledge I know about him before watching one of his movies. But I wanted to give it a try because I saw my letterbox and a ton of people actually gave it 5 stars. Honestly, I felt very underwhelmed by it. This is so unpopular, but I didn't feel a lot of chemistry between Diane and Woody. I think I felt the same way about Annie Hall, but it got a couple of good laughs out of me, and obviously the cinematography was, absolutely stunning. I felt his other 2 films, like Annie Hall and The Night in Paris, I did enjoy significantly more.
Well, let me ask, did you expect it to be more of a laugh-filled comedy than it was?
No, I expected it to be more romantic. Really, I didn't get a lot of romance from it. I think the charisma of Woody Allen, maybe because, again, everything that I've already been told for decades before definitely has kind of eroded down any way that I could really feel like a lot of charm from Woody anymore, especially with the subject matter of the young woman and what's to come in the rest of his life. It was almost too real to where I couldn't get lost in the movie, and I kept being reminded of real life.
Interesting. And you know that he and Diane Keaton were, in fact, boyfriend and girlfriend for a while.
Which shocked me. Yeah, I don't know. I did feel a friendship connection, but romance, I didn't get that too much.
Well, spoiler alert, the romance ultimately doesn't work out in this movie either. So it's a little background just so people who may not know the whole story, just a little taste of it. Suni Previn was actually the adopted daughter of his then girlfriend, Mia Farrow. And at age 21 began a sexual relationship with Woody Allen. Mia finds out and it becomes a huge firestorm. But he's been married to her now for over 30 years.
Yeah, that doesn't really fix everything. It doesn't really matter that they are still together. I don't want to come off like just a Woody Allen hater, but I also was very underwhelmed with this one. I guess this felt like a New York City hater. Oh, it's a famous bridge that everyone was supposed to be like geeking out under. Oh, cool, cool, cool. Oh, it's walking around New York. Yeah, I don't want to come off like that. You know, people live in New York and that's the city where they're from and all that kind of stuff. But I just think that whole New York slice of life was lost on me. And then like right in the early form of the movie, you find out she's 17 and I'm like, oh, you know what I'm saying? So it just felt that the movie was about the wrong person.
Ooh, who do you think it should have been about?
Well, I think it should have been about all the women. The most interesting parts of the movie were about Muriel Hemingway's character and then the wife that was there, late 70s, misogyny. I just felt like it just swing and a missed for me. The only thing that I liked was the planetarium scene.
Pretty strong scene in the planetarium. I want to get into all the issues you've brought up. But before we do that, Stephen, you're new to the show, but you're a big film lover. I know that. This was your first time seeing it. What was your reaction?
Leading up to when I saw it, I was reading up a lot on it and got really excited. I love black and white. The more I read about Gordon Willis, the more I was excited to see more of his work. And so it had high expectations of him. Just like everyone's saying, it didn't resonate with me. The minute that they're in the bar after that fantastic opening scene and he says that she's 17 and he's kind of like bragging about it, I just lost interest in him. I didn't want to follow his story anymore, which kind of pulled me out. But I took another look at it through cinematically is amazing, but I could not find any reason to like that guy or even care about him, you know, and it was set against such a beautiful backdrop, which made it very interesting.
Let me ask a question. How do you think the movie feels about his character? And anyone can feel free to answer this. You can start, Steve, if you like.
That's where I was conflicted because the women kind of pull the story and they are the ones that seem more mature. You know, they're the ones that seem like they know what's going on, and he doesn't. Maybe the movie doesn't see that Isaac as the way he sees himself, because he seems like very self-centered. Yeah, I just couldn't get past that because it felt like we were watching an autobiography.
Interesting. David, I don't know if you want to pick it up a little bit, like how you feel that the movie treats Isaac's character and how it might be different today than it was when we saw it.
Yeah, so I'll say that I'm really surprised by everyone's reaction. I mean, I'm not shocked because I certainly don't hear good things from young people's mouths about Woody Allen. So to me, he's not really bragging. He's actually, when the film starts, he's going out with Muriel Hemingway and he's 42 and she's 17. And the second she steps away, he says, I got to end this. This is really wrong. So there's a lot of doubt, his self-doubt about it. I don't think bragging is quite the right word. And I'm surprised that people didn't find the film charming at all. You know, I think only because when it came out, it wasn't just a particular kind of person that was charmed. It seemed like almost everybody was charmed by this movie in 1979. And something has really happened. A major cultural shift has occurred where all of a sudden nobody's charmed by it, apparently, or at least nobody on the panel. It would be really interesting to delve into that a little more and explore why the film goes from being quite charming to the vast majority of critics and filmgoers. And then 45 years later, it seems disgusting to people. I think that's super interesting.
Yeah, I'd say a couple things. Allen's character, Isaac, is clearly, obviously there's elements of Woody Allen in him, but he's a TV writer. He's not a big successful film writer. He's basically doing hack work. He quits his job in the movie in like an adolescent peak and has to move to a smaller apartment in a worse neighborhood. So essentially he's going backwards in his life. His two marriages have failed. He's not really raising his kid. And so Mariel Hemingway's character Tracy is essentially a step backward for him too. And even in that first scene in the restaurant, he's pretending to smoke cigarettes because he thinks it looks cool, which is something that you do when you're a teenager and that you're more likely to give up by the time you're 42. So I felt like the movie was critical of him. And I do think that when I first saw it back in 1979, and I was, I guess, probably 19 years old, there were a lot of stories about older guys in New York dating high school girls. Like it was, kind of at the height of the sexual revolution, post 60s, pre-AIDS. So, I think our society has completely changed since then. And there's also been Me Too and the whole heightened awareness of this. And one of the reasons we picked this movie was that we were interested to see whether or not this still played. And the show is supposed to be about the differences in how things were perceived, how they're perceived now. And very often we're just showing movies that everybody loves. So I'm fascinated about the reaction here and do want to dig in more to the story as well.
Yeah, and I want to hear from everybody. I saw the film in 79. I thought it was great. Like everyone I knew thought it was great. I was actually prepared to be to have the same reaction that our panelists are having. Because all I remembered about the movie is he's 42, he's married, he's dating Mariel Hemingway, who's 17. And there were beautiful shots of New York. That's all I remembered about this movie. The movie is very self-conscious about this issue, which disarmed me a little bit from thinking, okay, yeah, this is just hopelessly dated. But apparently I'm wrong about that, or at least not everyone sees it that way.
So let me throw this out there. Maybe I'll start with Kylie. Did you find anybody in the movie sympathetic?
I mean, I really felt a lot for Tracy, Mariel Hemingway's character, because I think in situations of growing up, I definitely was that 17, 18-year-old girl working at a restaurant, and a bunch of 30 to 40-year-old something guys were trying to hit on me all weird then, but I was like, kind of took it as an ego boost, but also like, oh, well, I'm so mature, I'm so old for my age. And then older as I get, I'm only like 8 years older. I see it now, and like I look at kids and my cousins who were that same age I was, only a couple of years older. Oh, and that was disgusting. That was so gross. It's all for the guy and his ego, and it's just, taking advantage of the naivete. So I think like for her, I understood because she really wanted to see it in the most beautiful way possible. And she wanted it to be like, well, I am mature. This is serious. I'm ready. I'm growing up. And it was her begging to be ready to handle someone who's lived a lot of life. Mm-hmm. I feel really bad for her because she was so optimistic. And at the end, my heart kind of broke for her because I felt that at the end, the way she acted, it was like, it would be beautiful if she was 30 years older, saying like, can't you just have faith in people? But then I was like, oh, but like, you shouldn't have faith in this man. And like, these are the people that are going to take your youth from you. And the fact that he's coming back, trying to stop you from living your life and growing, like, I just feel really bad. But like, I felt a lot of sympathy for her just the most because I think out of all the characters, she's the shoes that I've been in the most.
Yeah. And by the way, she got nominated for an Oscar for her performance in that for Best Supporting Actress. Interestingly enough, she lost to Meryl Streep for Kramer versus Kramer. Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So, Guy, you were also saying that you thought it'd be more interesting if the movie was told from the female point of view. Were there women other than Tracy that you were interested in their point of view?
Basically, I mean, I think this is by design. Every woman with a major speaking role was interesting. His second wife, why was she writing this book? And was the book good? You know what I'm saying? And then like, what was the dynamic between her wife? I don't know if they were married, but her wife and Woody Allen in relationship to the son. And then also the Diane Keaton's character. To me, she was really, that movie should have really been about her, as far as what does this say about yourself when you want to share a person? A lot of people have extramarital affairs or, have more than one girlfriend or boyfriend. What's that say about relationships? And then like with Tracy, ironically enough, the fact that she's 17 doesn't really hit. He wasn't a football player. He wasn't, a musician. He was just some creepy old dude, and he looked creepy. It's like, what? would a beautiful girl, what's going on in her life that would make her attracted to that guy? And that's the story I would want to see.
I mean, I was just like to chime in, like I just too felt like exactly the same way Guy felt, but seeing it from Isaac's perspective, it felt very like maybe his fantasy of what he likes them. So I think I get the movie. I see that is very deprecating of him. But yeah, I do in a weird way feel like it was very much a fantasy of how he wanted women to love him and flaunt him, but also wanted to show the audience world.
Interesting.
He is a guy with glasses, 5'5", a skinny little runt. He did have 17-year-old girlfriends. He was writing about his own life. So I don't think it's surprising. I mean, to call it just a fantasy on his part seems funny because it's a fantasy that was based on his life.
Right, but that's part of the transmutation into film. I think what is interesting from what Kylie was saying about him wanting Tracy to kind of be the way he wants her to be. You know, she's his cultural attaché who can go to museums with him and he can educate her, which is kind of a old time thing about older men teaching younger women.
But she's his protege.
But he's always trying to get her to break up with him for the first half of the movie. He's always telling her, this isn't going to last. You need to go meet a bunch of other guys. And I thought that was interesting, the kind of push-pull that he has.
That creates that victimhood, you know, that he knows that he's doing wrong and he knows that he shouldn't be in this. He doesn't want to end it, so he's trying to put it on her.
My question would be, what do you guys think this movie is about? Why are we seeing these 6 or however many people, main characters? What's the point of the movie? What's the point the movie's making? What is the movie saying at the end?
So I don't know so much about if it rings true to all the way to their end, but it felt like definitely in the beginning with the use of the shadows and the darkness and all that, you would notice whenever someone's going to reveal something, they're in the dark.
Oh, wow.
And then when they start saying it or mentioning, you know, the affair with Yale, when Yale was talking about his affair the first time, they're coming out of the Carlisle, they're in the dark. And then the minute he starts saying it, they're in the light. And then back in the dark when they start defending themselves. I felt like it was to say everybody has, you know, that darkness or that something in the shadows. You know, I thought that was a point that they were trying to make. But again, it didn't ring true all the way through. And I don't know if that's really what Woody Allen wanted, but because it seemed like they said, it was Woody Allen's fantasy. That's how I felt from his perspective.
Stephen, you've talked about the black and white. For Kylie and Guy, how much do you feel the movie needed to be in black and white? Like, would it have been different if it was in color, better or worse?
I would say probably honestly worse. I do think New York in black and white was a great choice. But yeah, New York is a busy, living, breathing entity that is always changing, always chaotic. There's new buildings, old buildings, somewhere in the middle buildings. And I think black and white allows you to just, it's beautiful. You're going to all see it the same exact way. And you're just going to focus on these relationships instead of being really sensory overload with the city and it engulfing them. So I think it was really cool to see these characters very much put on a pedestal in one of the biggest, craziest cities in the world. So I think that was important to contrast.
So it's funny you say about putting them on a pedestal. Essentially, these are very ordinary people within that milieu, right? These are not the people who are writing the big successful books or making the big successful TV shows and movies. They're all kind of mid-level, bourgeoisie trying to make their way. But the movie does heighten them in the way that movies do, especially black and white movies, classic Hollywood cinema, right? Where when you saw it projected, they were big. They were big cinema gods, even in this movie where they're super fallible and messed up. Guy, did you like the black and white?
I liked how the movie was about people living their lives in an unconventional way. But if you looked at their lives, it was in black and white, contrast of right and wrong, black and white. You were watching everything through that lens. But as far as what David was asking, what this movie was about, I'm kind of confused. You know what I'm saying? Themes and me being confused about the movie is a good thing. I like that. It's kind of hard for me to pick out the theme. And that's partially Woody Allen's fault.
I don't think you're the only one who's confused about what the film's about. And in fact, seeing it this second time, I realized that I was completely wrong when I first saw the film. I was 20 years old, and I don't think I got it back then. I think I have a very different way of looking at it now anyway.
I think that we can keep moving towards this idea of what the movie's about, because I've got other things that I want to cover that I think may help us get there.
Okay, but I think that like some of the things that are sticking in people's craw about the movie, I think is based on a misunderstanding of actually what kind of movie this is and what the movie is about, and what the movie is fundamentally saying.
I want to speak to that because that's a big point, David. When we saw the movie back in 1979, everybody in the theater was laughing a lot in the movie until the very end. And I do think the ending is confusing, and I think it's worth unpacking separately, right?
And also, I don't think it's that funny. It's not
it's
jokes.
not funny
It's
sitting
jokes.
at home watching it. It's not as funny.
It's funnier in a theater, I know. And it was funnier in 1979 in a theater with everybody excited because it's the new Woody Allen film. But I don't think this movie's a comedy. And that's just what I want to say. I was going to say, after Annie Hall, that he got successful after Annie Hall, and he could make any movie he wanted for a minute. Probably the only minute in his life where he could really make any movie he wanted was after 5 Oscars for Annie Hall. And he made Interiors, which is a very serious drama that he's not in. Basically, it's Ingmar Bergman-style drama about a very fucked up family. And it's a total tragedy from beginning to end. And that's the movie he really wanted to make. And so when he got a chance, he made it. But
people didn't really want to see it, though. Like, people were kind of like, go back to making funny movies.
A lot of people said, this isn't a Woody Allen movie. Where's the Schlemiel guy we love? Where is he? Meanwhile, the film was nominated for 4 Oscars. It won all kinds of film festivals in Europe. It was actually a very good movie, but it was not what people were expecting from Woody Allen film. They wanted that lovable nebbish.
And I think there was a feeling that Manhattan kind of split the difference, right?
Yeah, but I think Manhattan is a tragedy, and it's not a comedy. It's a tragedy with jokes. That's what I think it is.
So we talked a little bit about the use of black and white and the necessity of that. Here's a big question for you guys. Is what happens with the characters in some way unique to where it takes place? It's called Manhattan. It's about these characters who are all having affairs, cheating, trying to figure stuff out, trying to make their lives move forward in this cultural milieu, very sophisticated. Does it have to be Manhattan, or could this have happened in Boise?
I think the story could have happened anywhere, but it wouldn't have looked the same, because the only charm that this movie had was the city. That shot of where Yankee Stadium's right there, and the fireworks go off like that. That's the only good stuff that I really took from this movie. So,
but in 1979, could a 42-year-old be openly dating a 17-year-old and going out to a restaurant with his friends in any other part of the country? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know if this could have happened in not a big bustling world city. Like in Paris, yes. Like in London, yes. Maybe in LA nowish. But I think like the thing is like you need anonymity really badly to be able to go to a museum with your mistress and your wife not catch on. Word travels so fast. Someone who might know you from a Facebook photo. So I think like it had to be like during this time in Manhattan when people, one, didn't have clear communication. It's a very big, but also like two, like the city's so big, the city engulfs you. There's people sprinting everywhere and you never know who you're gonna run into. But like, I definitely think you needed a place larger than life to conceal this web of intermingling between people who live in the same general vicinity of each other.
What about the idea that you have so much choice in Manhattan in terms of people to potentially hook up with, in terms of culture, in terms of career, that informs these characters?
I thought that was interesting with, of course, Diane Keaton, Mary. When it was in the bar, I think at a hotel bar there, she was basically saying she didn't want to be with a married man anymore, like, because you saw that change. That was like the first character I felt sympathy with. Like, okay, you know, she's getting it.
Wait, do you think that Mary, did your feelings about...
No, I'm sorry, Mary.
Yeah, did your feelings about Mary change when she gets called when she decides to go back with Yale at the end of the movie?
Mary, I immediately stopped liking it even after that growth when it seemed like she was chasing Woody Allen now. It was like, oh, she was just trying to manipulate her situation and get out of her situation to go after Woody Allen. She saw someone that's single, that would kind of be more of a life that she wants. And now she's going that way. So I kind of, I lose sympathy.
We'll be right back for Woody Allen's Manhattan.
What does every USAA member have in common? Family. We're one big family who supports the military community and their eligible families. And if you, your parent, or spouse served, you could join our family and save big on auto insurance. Visit USAA.com/join today to check your eligibility. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
New season, new chaos in college football.
Let's go! Big stage, big opportunity.
This Labor Day weekend, the wildness lives on ABC, ESPN, and the all-new ESPN app.
What a way to start!
Featuring top 10 teams like Clemson, Notre Dame, Alabama, and LSU, and Bill Belichick's debut at North Carolina.
It's so special when these teams collide.
Don't miss a lineup filled with electric matchups.
Welcome back to college football.
Kickoff week presented by Modelo. Labor Day weekend on ESPN and ABC. Also available to stream on the all-new ESPN app.
Oh, I had another question too about Yale. So we see Yale, who seems to have a little more handle on his career than Isaac's character does, but is cheating on his wife, and also in that same sort of narcissistic, not quite grown-up way, doesn't want to have kids, even though she does. So my question is, how does Yale compare morally to Isaac? Better, worse, the same? Where do you put him?
There's no difference between what Yale is doing to Mary and his wife than Woody Allen is doing to Tracy and Mary.
Except that Isaac's not married, right?
Yeah,
so
but
not...
in this sense, especially in the context of the movie, reverence of marriage is like no big deal. Everyone's sitting around the table. Yale is cheating on his wife, no big deal. I can't judge you because I'm flip-flopping in my relationships. So to me, they're the exact same level of gross. Sorry.
How did you feel about when Mary breaks up with Yale? How did you feel about Yale essentially passing her off on to Isaac?
He wanted to keep her in close proximity. He knows Isaac, and he knows that Isaac can't keep a woman around very long. They all can go be adults and hang out with each other, and they can come back in her life. And, I felt that early on, and then at the end, I was right, so.
At the end, Yale's made the decision to leave her. And there's the very funny moment where she says to Isaac, by the way, he kind of blames you for introducing the two of them.
Yeah.
Which is just hilarious. And like the worst double date in history when they're sitting there at the symphony.
That I laughed there.
Yeah, but didn't Isaac also have to lie to her about him? Like, Isaac didn't introduce it to you. Yeah. Yale introduced Isaac to her. You know
Mary.
What I'm saying?
Yeah.
To Mary.
Well, exactly. That was a secret they were keeping from her.
Right.
So,
and they still couldn't bust it open.
I felt that was more of like he didn't want to put salt in the wound at that point.
Yeah, I think that's for her.
He knew he was wrong. Yeah, he was wrong for not saying something, but it would be worse for her if he was like, well, actually, it gets worse than you think. So I hope you cry harder into your pillow at night. But he knows he's something bad, so he'll take it kind of on the chin because he's like, you know what,
I agree.
Let's not make it worse for her. I sleep at night.
Yeah, he's protecting her and his friend. He's protecting them both.
Yeah, I think also it would have exposed him, because he's, that scene where when he's fake introducing Mary to Yale.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of bring this back to what you guys thought about the movie. I know it's a little early to get into our recommendations, but doesn't that actually speak well of the movie? That you saw these characters and you took a moral stand against them? And the movie is not saying you're wrong. The movie is essentially saying you're right, except it's doing it with a lot of charm. So, because that's the thing that I noticed about it. How can we stand being around all these narcissistic, as cultured as they are, whatever, these narcissistic people? It's because, what, they're kind of charming. It's kind of charming, erudite company. They talk about literature, they talk about art, film, whatever it is. So we kind of put up with it, but you guys are all exactly right. Like, these characters are all reprehensible, except for, I think Diane Keaton's character is somewhat reprehensible too, but I think I think Meryl Streep's character, I think Tracy, I think Yale's wife, they're all fine.
Tracy isn't. I think Tracy is not reprehensible. I think
No,
Tracy,
she's the moral center of the movie.
Yeah, she's probably the most mature person in the entire movie, and she's 17. And she's certainly the kindest hearted person and the least selfish in the movie.
Maybe because she hasn't been corrupted by the city, by society.
They even say that, right? At the end, she says, not everybody's corrupt. I won't say the last line of the movie because we'll get to that when we get to the ending. But
And how about the scene where he breaks up with her in the soda shop? They're in a soda shop, for God's sake. He breaks up with her and she starts crying, and it looked like real tears to me. I mean, it was...
That was sad. And she's like, just leave me alone. And I was like, oh.
So, Kylie, you had rolled your eyes when I mentioned, or you had an expression when I mentioned the way that the guys kind of handed off Mary from one to the other. What was your thinking at that time?
Obviously, Diane Keaton, and they see it in the movie, like her character, Mary, is so insecure. She does not like herself that much. She thinks she is not worth very much. She has her identities rooted in her being from Philadelphia and then her living in Manhattan now and the people around her. And it feels like she just doesn't really have a great sense of self. And she wants to surround herself with people she thinks are interesting, because then by proxy, it makes her more interesting. Mm-hmm. But it's just an object of passing a girl around who doesn't have the courage or love for herself to say that she deserves better, and who thinks she deserves this. I think they saw that in her and was like, yeah, fine, she'll be fine with it, so we can be okay with it because she would do it anyways.
Yale is worse than Isaac. And the scene in which it's specifically laid out in the movie, he pulls them out of class, and they're in another classroom at Columbia with this skeleton. That he's basically calling Yale and being a hypocrite. You think you're perfect. You think you're like God. And Isaac says, well, I got to model myself after somebody. And that, which only undercuts, I think, what he's saying in the scene, which is not that he's God, which is that he's very imperfect, but he's aware of it. And Yale won't admit how terribly imperfect he is.
So what do you think happens to their relationship after the movie? Does it just go on?
They're doomed.
He said, I give it 4 weeks. Yeah. She goes, I can't plan that far ahead. Do you think it meant anything that they're in a room filled with skeletons?
They're secrets.
Oh, secrets.
They're the skeletons in their classroom. They're pseudo-intellectual people with all these secrets and horrible things they've been hiding from each other and their loved ones and their friends. And, they're in it now.
I agree with that. I think there's another one, too, which is he talks about posterity. What will people think? Like the way we're behaving, what will people think of us? I want to live a life that, people could look up to in the future when if they think of me, realizing that he's just in a long line of Stone Age people that were not that different from the days when, I don't know what was going on, whatever was going on in the Stone Age. It's it's still going on. It's dog eat dog. It's everyone for themselves. He also kind of expresses the opposite. So let me think about this, because he also says he feels like morals are breaking down. He talks about that, how...
But isn't this part of his whole living in the past, his lack of development? Even in the opening monologue, because over the gorgeous shots of New York and Rhapsody in Blues playing, the Gershwin tune, and it's super iconic opening, he's writing the beginning of his novel, I guess, or memoir novel. And as he's writing it, he keeps changing it and rewriting it. And it's funny and it's narcissistic, but it's really about posterity. It's all these characters are trying to do something. When are you going to write your book on Eugene O'Neill? Asking Yale when he's going to write that book. These people are all kind of grasping at something more than their present life, and they're completely failing to make that dent in the universe. As
he's also still stuck in this adolescent space.
Doesn't everybody always say standards have gone down? Things used to be more moral or better or whatever. I mean, isn't that...
I think what he's saying is that in his father's day, a 42-year-old was a 42-year-old. They knew who they were. Mm-hmm. They didn't have all these choices. They just got married, and hopefully they stayed married. And, there wasn't a lot more that you could do. And I think he's saying that he's living in this era of just slippery morality, slippery everything.
How about the whole idea were you guys at all charmed by the sophistication of the culture they were living in?
It was kind of lost on me. Like all the songs in this film, it was like a soundtrack for New York. You know, like all the I've heard these songs in different stories, and I'm pretty sure they're all about New York.
Yeah, kind
Well,
of.
they're all by the same composer. They're all by George Gershwin, and there were no words. Well, I guess some of them had words, but they're all Gershwin songs. Gershwin lived in New York, so a lot of the songs are about New York, but a lot of them are just about romance. They're
But
definitely
all nostalgic.
it's nostalgic. Yeah,
Yeah.
Right, but like that, but they weren't made. Were they made for this movie?
No.
no,
Right,
no,
because like
these are
I remember,
classic 30s.
yeah. So
It inspired the movie, though. It definitely, he says it inspired him. That these songs were what inspired this story.
Part of the nostalgia, besides being for Gershwin, is for black and white movies from the 40s. And if you look at those, it's all about, the theater, my dear, let's go. And, the opera and, high culture is very valorized in those old movies, wearing top hats and dressing fancy and dinner at 8. That's the height of glamour. And I think he's very nostalgic for that, but he's living in New York in the 70s, which is a city that's breaking down into crime, and it's all punk rock. That's all disappearing. And he's kind of trying to harken back to like those old black and white 40s movies when when the culture was different.
One of his lines in the movie, Isaac asks the question, why is life worth living? And he talks about all these cultural things that he loves that
They're
are
all old.
Yeah, all old kind of things. But I wonder how much that informs the movie. The idea of, is the movie playing with the idea of, is life worth living? What makes life worth living? For people that live in Manhattan, I was there for 9 years. David, I know you were raised there. There is a certain thing where you can't leave Manhattan. You become slaves of New York, as Tama Janowitz said. You just can't live your life without Zabar's and Russian Tea Room and Elaine's and whatever it is that you love about New York. How much is that kind of informing the movie?
Yeah, reading up on this thing, he mentioned that he made this black and white because, like David said, it was nostalgia for him. He would see, old pictures, family photos, and they're all black and white, and this is how he saw it. So I definitely think that does play a good part in what he wanted to portray.
Yeah, and people are grasping onto glamour. Especially Mary. Mary comes from Pennsylvania, so she can, talk about art and go to these museums and say, I look down on Mahler. She's really trying to elevate herself by having opinions about all these high cultural things.
And meanwhile, writing novelizations of movies for money.
But in fact, she writes novelizations, which is, a kind of a new thing in the 70s and very looked down on. It's not a real art form.
Well, let's get into some of the research that everybody did. Stephen, I'm going to start with you. You've already given us some of the information about the making of the movie. Is there anything more you'd like to add?
I want to touch on Gordon Willis, highlight him, because I think he's incredible and more people need to know him. I'm mad at myself for not knowing him before this by name. Obviously, I've seen some of his work, but didn't know him by name. So Gordon Willis was the director of photography. He made Godfather 2. He was only nominated twice, though, for an Academy Award, which was kind of disappointing. Once for Godfather 2 and then once for Zelig, which I've never heard of.
It's a faux documentary by Woody Allen. That's historical faux documentary. That's amazing. Nothing like it type movie.
Definitely want to check out. Yeah, so this was Woody Allen's 8th movie. Again, it was inspired by George Gershwin's music. That he wanted to make a love note basically to Manhattan because of that, and then everything else developed. It was a $9 million budget. The big thing about this was that he put it in the contract. It has to be in widescreen. I will say that the movie is beautiful. If you listen to it without words, it's absolutely stunning. But just the characters are horrible. Oh, I'm sorry. The Queensboro Bridge scene.
Yeah. Really famous.
So those lights are usually off. He made a deal with them to put it on for the scene. And I was trying to look for it, but I read that one of the lights went out on the take that they actually used in the movie. I was trying to look for it, but I couldn't find it. But that was a very beautiful shot as well. You know what I think it is for younger people, why we're not so impressed by this is you open up Instagram, you see B-roll all the time of, just beautiful landscapes, especially with drones now, all the drone shots and all that. Like, it's just so common. It's almost we don't want to see it anymore. But I'm assuming in 1979 that was like beautiful. Like that was amazing because it was beautiful.
Guy, can you tell us a little bit about the reception for the movie?
Right. So basically there's not bad reviews for Manhattan that I've came across. You do Rotten Tomatoes, you look at Cisco and Ebert, it's all like these glowing reviews. The thing that's interesting to me though is that the 1979, the lineup of movies that came out that year, with Manhattan, in the lineup, the Manhattan came out, it was like the number 12 movie of that year, right? But like it was like behind Escape from Alcatraz and like Moonraker and The Jerk. And then like the number one movie was Superman. I mean, like, the fact that the Alien, the fact that this movie was not an action, like a lot of these are action thrillers. Apocalypse Now was number 6. These are, I guess it's like this push into the big budget 1980s tentpole movies.
I want to move on to Kylie, who I know you've done some research on the controversies around Woody Allen. And before we do that, I just want to mention, David may spend more time talking about this. Woody Allen was huge when I was a kid, and especially growing up as a Jewish kid, a nerdy Jewish kid, a nebbish. That was, he was somebody that we looked up to. He was funny. He seemed to be able to get the girl in the movies after a while, not immediately. He was a huge influence on culture. So, the fact that it feels so different today probably has to do with what you're going to tell us about the controversies around him.
Yeah, so I kept it very short. There is so much. If you look at any article about it, you'll get lost in it. Kind of bullet points. You can look up more if you need to, but it's a lot. It all kind of started with Woody Allen and Mia Farrow's relationship. As far as I know, or anyone knows, there really wasn't much to say controversial about Woody Allen before this time. But they were together for 12 years. And then at the tail end of their relationship in like 92, that's kind of when everything just domino affected. Mia says that during their relationship, she found explicit photos of her adopted daughter with Andre Previn, Soon-Yi Previn. So Soon-Yi and Woody say that it happened after the split. And then Mia says that was the reason for the split. They had 3 kids together, Farrow and Allen. Once again, Soon-Yi was not one of those children. 2 adoptive children, Moses and Dylan. And then Satchel, who also is now Ronan Farrow, who is more like a journalist, MSNBC, I believe, commentator as well, or at least for some time. During that time of the breakup, Woody was visiting the Farrow house, and that is when it is alleged by Farrow that he was molesting her and Alan's younger adoptive daughter, Dylan. That's when the trial began.
Over custody, and it was,
right? Well, there was a sexual abuse trial because of the allegations. During that time, after investigation, they did find him not guilty of any of that. Also with they did like a whole investigation of that during the custody trial to prove custody. So they did a whole segment of that really, really long battle on that. And then the medical professionals and the judge did find no conclusive evidence whatsoever that could be concrete to actually really do anything about those allegations. And then Farrow did win custody with visits from Allen later on. Of course, if you jump all the way to 2021, there's an Allen versus Farrow documentary where it's mainly Mia, it's Dylan, who the abuse was alleged against sexually, and then Ronan Farrow, where they kind of detail the side of it. And Ronan Farrow was also known to be very big in publishing one of the first Me Too articles to kind of kickstart the anti-Harvey Weinstein side of it. But then Moses, I'm not sure if he goes by Allen or Farrow anymore, but he does take the Woody side and says that as far as he remembers, nothing ever happened. But he's very much kind of secluded from the public eye and just is a family therapist. And I think just wants nothing to do with this whole controversy, wants to be his own person.
David, you want to tell us a little bit about Woody Allen from a professional point of view?
He was born in 1935. His name was Alan Koenigsberg. He grew up in Brooklyn. He had a very difficult relationship with his immigrant parents. And he actually only spoke German when he started grade school. He learned English in grade school. He was very smart, but a totally disinterested student. He never got good grades. He liked to play baseball and sports. He got into NYU, but he dropped out and even failed a course in movie production. And he became a paid joke writer when he was 17. He changed his name to Woody Allen. He said his stage name has all the glamorous appeal of show business that one imagines in Flatbush. So soon he was in huge demand. He was writing for major shows like Candid Camera, Ed Sullivan, Sid Caesar, and The Tonight Show. He wrote captions for New Yorker cartoons. He was very famous for just working day and night. People expressed shock at how much output there was, just pages and pages all the time. And in 1960, he was 25, and he started doing stand-up in Greenwich Village alongside people like Lenny Bruce, Richard Pryor, Elaine May, George Carlin. He released some best-selling comedy albums. He got nominated for a Grammy. He started writing Broadway shows and short stories and screenplays. And he just racked up Tony and Emmy nominations. He did a thing called What's Up, Tiger Lily, which kind of anticipated Mystery Science Theater by about 22 years. But then his first real film was a mockumentary called Take the Money and Run, which is maybe dated today. I just remember laughing so hard and my stomach hurt. Bananas, Sleeper, and Love and Death were three more highlights of that early, funnier period. And then he made Annie Hall, and he swept the Oscars, as we mentioned. And then he made Manhattan. And he became known for really launching actresses' careers, or for taking actresses who had okay careers and getting them huge awards. And he says, well, the thing is, I always played the guy, so I just didn't work with a lot of lead guys. I worked with a lot of lead actresses. His next film was Stardust Memories, which is an excellent takeoff on 8.5. I think that kind of launches his middle period. From there, from 1982 to 2017, it's a long time. What is it? 35 years.
Wow.
He wrote and directed a feature film every year and released it. And I'd say, in my opinion, they range from good to excellent. There's some feeling of repetition.
Thematic.
And people are always kind of announcing, oh, the best part of his career is over. And then he keeps reinventing, coming up with something new because redoing the formula. In the history of cinema, there's no writer-director that's made that many films.
How many is it now?
He's hoping to shoot his 50th film in Rome this summer. He's 88 years old. I mean, it's an incredible achievement. It's unparalleled. Whether you like the films or not, it's still, but I think many of the films are good. I guess our panel didn't like Manhattan. I still urge you to check out some of the other films. I'll just list some of my favorites. Anyway, Stardust Memories is a great movie. Zelig is amazing. Broadway Danny Rose, Purple Rose of Cairo, Hannah and Her Sisters, Crimes and Misdemeanors, Husbands and Wives. I think Celebrity is a very underrated film, but not everyone thinks it's a great one. Sweet and Lowdown's good. Match Point is a great film. For somebody to get great reviews from film critics, male or female, all these decades, rave reviews, and awards from America, England, France, Italy, the whole world, to be that highly regarded, and then suddenly you can't find any of his films. There's very few that can be streamed. This is a very important body of work, and it should be available for people to see. And I think the canceling of him is weird to me, even though I do understand the anger towards what he did. I mean, certainly I do the fact that when he was breaking up with Mia Farrow, that he chose her adopted daughter as the next person to have a relationship with. How could she not be infuriated? I mean, that is designed to drive somebody off their rocker. I do want to say one thing about what I think the movie is about, because we didn't really get to go back to that. The whole movie has told you can't have faith in people. You can't trust anybody in this movie except maybe Tracy. She's the one person maybe you could have faith in, but you know what? She's going to go to London. She's going to be an actress. She's going to meet a lot of guys. She's going to get involved in relationships, just like he said. He's predicted all this. And she's not going to carry a torch for him forever, and she shouldn't. And so when she says you got to have some faith in people, it's like the last thing he's realizing is, well, that's what the movie's about. You can't have faith in people. It's like, it's a loss. It's the anti-romantic comedy ending. And people mistake it for romantic comedy because it's full of jokes and it has a romantic feeling. But the movie is saying the exact opposite.
By the way, does anyone here think that when Tracy comes back from London in 6 months, they're going to have a relationship again?
Oh, no.
No.
We will. Ew.
She'll have grown up and moved on.
So that's what I mean. It's
And
not
he'll still
a
be
romantic
stuck.
comedy ending. The ending is he wants her, but no. True love doesn't really conquer all.
We'll be right back with our panels, recommendations and ratings for Woody Allen's Manhattan.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, well, I think it's time for us to do our ratings and recommendations. It's a 4-star system. 4 stars is not just a great movie, but one that would be on your top 50 list of all time, touched you in some personal way. It's an A+. 3.5 stars is an A. That's an unbelievably great movie. 3 stars is an A-, nothing to be ashamed of. Great movie that maybe is a little bit flawed. And then you got the Bs, which are 2.5 stars for a B+. That's a good B movie. 2 stars for a B-. That's you can skip this one, B movie. And then it goes down to a C for 1.5 stars, a D for 1 star. A half star is an E, so bad it's good. And there are no 0-star movies because getting a movie made is so damn hard. You deserve at least half a star. I'm going to start with our guest, Stephen.
Yeah. So recommend definitely anyone that's into cinematography. This shot so beautifully. Definitely would recommend to anyone that likes black and whites. As far as that, I would have trouble recommending it to people because I can't get behind it. Can't get behind Woody Allen or back. But rating 2.5.
2.5 star, B+ for you. All right, Guy, what about you?
I got to give this one a 3. If I go lower than a 3, it's because of the controversy behind Woody Allen.
Okay, Kylie, the one woman on the panel today, really interested to know who, if anyone, you'd recommend this to see and what your rating is.
I would recommend it anyone who also like cinematography is stunning, beautiful, magnificent. Like it's a masterclass. It's a movie that you can have a conversation with after and have a great discussion like we did. Like, you guys, I love Diane Keaton. I love Meryl Streep. You have to support the ladies too. And like, once again, take it with a grain of salt. It really didn't like elicit like crazy feelings from me, but I can appreciate the good things that it did. I would say I would probably have to give it my first 2.5, just because I didn't chuckle. I didn't feel a lot of super charm in it. But like it wasn't bad. It's just like for me, I didn't really get a lot of feelings in my tummy or in my heart, and yeah.
Fair enough, David.
I've mentioned in some of the other films that sometimes it's the body of work. Like when we did Preston Sturges, it's like, well, it's not a 4-star movie, but it's like a 4-star body of work. So for Woody, it's a 4-star body of work to me. It's 16 Academy Award nominations just for Best Screenplay alone. I don't think this is a perfect film. I'll tell you that I'm not as bowled over by the cinematography as some of our panelists. Woody Allen is not a typical filmmaker. He's a great writer, and he makes the films because he knows that if he gives these scripts to somebody else, they're not going to get it right. But he's not a talented craftsman he's just simply the most prolific, best screenwriter that we've ever had, even ahead, in my opinion, of Billy Wilder and Preston Sturges, which is really high praise. So 3.5.
I would definitely recommend this to anybody who loves New York or wants to love New York. For me, just the beginning of watching it again, as the music hits and then those shots of the city and the way he shows high and low. I mean, it's everything from Shakespeare in the Park to, guys on a street corner in Spanish Harlem. It's just such a rich point of view about the city. And then I also think the thing that is really interesting about the movie is the thing that I think turned off our three younger panelists over here, which is that I think it is really critical of that world. I think it's his most subtle movie of all the ones I've ever seen that I can think of, David, that in terms of the morality and the thematic stuff that's happening, it's very subtle compared to other movies. It's not telling you how to feel. And I think that can be really confusing. I think it's really risky. I mean, I think the shots are iconic. I think they stick in your head. The planetarium scene sticks in my head. Even him walking down the street with Meryl Streep having an argument where he kind of looks like he was stalking her or something like that. And she's got that blonde hair flowing in beautiful black and white, and there's great features. And he's just, all of it is so amazing. So this movie, because of Woody Allen's life, is such a minefield, but I'm going to go with 3.5 stars myself. So, Guy, how did we come out?
We come out as an even 3-star movie.
A minus?
Crazy. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting to me is that our younger panelists, none of you gave it a B minus. So none of you thought it was a bad B movie, even though you're very critical of it.
Wait, what's the 2.5?
B plus.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because there's no middle with B's. They're either worth seeing if you like the genre or not worth seeing if you like the genre.
You never ask people about their favorite lines. Maybe we don't. That boat sailed.
Well, I think we talked about the orgasm line.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there's one other that I really love.
What's your other line that you love? You say it now.
My favorite line is, "You knew my history when you married me." Meryl Streep says that, and he says, "I know. My analyst warned me, but you were so beautiful that I got another analyst."
The orgasm line is, I finally had an orgasm. My doctor told me my psychiatrist, was it? My doctor told me it was the wrong kind. And he goes, no problem for me. Even the worst one, right on the money.
Right on the money. That is a great joke.
Manhattan is available to stream with a subscription to MGM Plus or Fubo, or for rent on Apple, YouTube, Amazon, and other online outlets. Speaking of YouTube, you can find Film Generations there with clips and stills and on audio wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. If you like this show, please tell your friends. Please rate and review us so others can find us as well. Film Generations is an Electricast production. I'd like to thank our panelists, Guy Lewis, Kylie LaRue, Steve Renteria, and our co-host and producer, David Tauzik. Our executive producers are myself, Mark Netter, and my partner at Electricast, Peter Rafelson. Our editor is Misha Yuzakova. For our next episode, we go to a science fiction film that was legendarily difficult to get made by any movie studio, but became a surprisingly huge box office hit in 1968, launching 4 sequels, a TV series, and 3 cinematic reboots. It's Charlton Heston, Roddy McDowall, and Kim Hunter starring in the original, Rod Serling scripted Planet of the Apes. Will our young panelists go ape for this version, as audiences did 56 years ago, or prefer the more current evolutions? Find out only here on Film Generations.
Electricast.
You deserve better health care, and so do we all. Medicine in America is a podcast that shares real stories of patients and doctors reshaping the future, because the revolution in care isn't coming, it's already here. Real stories, real change, a better future for healthcare.
Electricast.
Hey guys, it's your girl Yasia. I want to share some really exciting news with you. I just dropped my first ever single, Spell on You, off my upcoming debut EP, Devil's Room, on RM Records. It's simply devilicious. Check out Spell on You wherever you listen to music. Bye for now.
I never thought I'd fall in love like this. It's time to close the chapter, but I think I needed this.